Hi, I'm Sarah Wilder, and this is part 14 of Surviving the Man I Married. In part 13, we heard the rest of a February 2020 reading with Peter and about cutting cords. In this episode, you'll get the follow up to that, and you'll hear another reading with Peter from 5 months after the last one, from July 2020. It's kind of long, so I'm going to cover the second half of it in part 15. Stuff that happened after the February 2020 reading: defeat. I conceded the battle. I had abandoned both my job and apartment search efforts, and instead I chose to live yet another compromise, except in this version, I believed I'd retained a measure of power, some control, because I'd set the terms for this contracted remarriage, which I was 2 months into at this time. The rules were: we don't invade each other's privacy, no surveillance or interrogation, no intimacy, platonic only. And we date others, that's fine, but nobody comes to our home. If these are violated, I will leave and rent out my rooms. Money. So, about money, not long after the last reading, I received some money from the sale of my mother's property, but it was dramatically less than what I was expecting due to some creative bookkeeping by my brother, the estate executor, who's also an emotionally and verbally abusive tyrant. So, thanks to more male originated trauma, of course, I didn't use the money to break free as I had been planning to for over a year. Right away, I began to remodel my townhouse, making improvements such as new carpet. I needed allergy free carpet because latex. Custom plantation shutters throughout, custom built in bookshelves in our living room. And all of this was supplemented by new kitchen appliances that Jim purchased. My little invented world looked comfy and shiny and fresh. However, the reality of it was beginning to resemble one of Roald Dahl's revolting rhymes, wherein there is no good guy, everybody helps themselves, nobody is nice, and it ends badly. Thank God for Karen and Georgia and My Favorite Murder. They entered my life at a time when I was hiding out, hunkering down, and giving up. Also, we did some camping. Jim and I took the RV to Island Park, Idaho, outside of Yellowstone. But because Idaho, even though it was late June, it was still cold, rainy, and sleeting. And he and I could only play so much canasta, Yahtzee, and bananagrams. So we left 2 days early. Okay, so one good thing about Idaho is the gas station barbecue we got just outside of Rexburg. It was phenomenal. And gas station food in Idaho in general is awesome. Chicken fingers, biscuits and gravy, scones, and drive-up windows. So this next reading from July 2020, I call Lost Treasure. I want to preface it with that. This was the first time I had a phone reading. It was during the lockdown, but I did not even find the recording for this reading till 2024. I spent the whole year before 2023 transcribing every reading, the ones Peter made, the ones I made. I scoured my entire phone for every last one. But when I was writing the book in 2024, I got to this time of the year, the middle of the year 2020, in the book, and I was looking through the calendar to jog my memory. And I found an appointment in the calendar for a phone reading. Not only had I not remembered that it ever happened, but it wasn't in the phone the year before. So I went back to my email box, I found it, and there it was, where Peter had sent it the day after this reading with the recording attached. And it honestly was like finding a golden Easter egg a year after Easter. It was fantastic. So I chose the master bedroom upstairs for this phone reading. It has a huge picture window with a beautiful view of Mahogany Mountain. And it was far enough from both the back and the front doors that in case Jim turned up early, something he did once in a while, not often, I would have ample time to close my bedroom door and lock it because he didn't know about most of these readings. Okay, let's get started. My higher self entered the reading first, and right away she mentioned the word balance. She brought up that over the years I've had fight or flight moments and may have even been aware of the level of panic. She explained that those are trauma responses from my nervous system based on past experiences and triggered by new trauma. I'm told how in these moments cortisol floods the body and creates inflammation, which causes pain. She saw this problem in my hips and legs, and one hip especially, and in my abdomen. My higher self told me that it's my time to start healing myself on the inside. I needed to clear these past traumas, clear my spiritual vibration to raise it. Doing this will help restore balance to my body and to me. Peter asked my higher self, how am I to do this? She explained that humans have what's called monkey brain. Our minds run fast and aren't easily quieted. Check. That lack of focus disconnects us from our body and our soul is where love and joy live, from where they emanate. I'm to try to tap into meditation to quiet my mind, and she mentioned mindfulness meditation as the form I need to explore. When things we're experiencing, like pain, create obstacles to achieving this peacefulness and calm, a mantra needs to be used, and I can use something like, I'm going to be in this moment. I'm going to stay in this moment. I love this moment. It is loving, caring for, and nourishing me. By doing this, we replenish ourselves, and my brain reacts in a way that helps my body to relax and get relief from discomfort. I'm sorry about the dogs. My higher self continued, when we're calm and quiet, old unresolved emotional pain can resurface, and then we can look at the pain, identify it, and send it on its way. But most people, and me as well, want to push away these kinds of unwanted feelings. She said it's important for me to recognize and acknowledge them, even if I'm not ready, and send them love and nourishment. Also, I'm not to judge or reject my feelings or think they're wrong. Instead, I'm to give myself the same degree of grace and validation I would to a stranger who might share the same things with me. But when I do judge myself for how I'm feeling, my higher self said she can help me release the guilt and shame by calmly telling myself that it's okay. There's nothing wrong with how I think or feel. And once I'm practicing these techniques, I'll notice the ability to be mindful and experience this sense of peacefulness throughout the day. I will feel more at ease and be more productive as well and have more time to enjoy life. A new topic and a challenging one for me, my suppressed immune system. My higher self directly addressed what role I can play in helping to promote well-being in this facet of my health. She explained that my compromised immune system is further challenged by the stress I feel over the fear and uncertainty rampant in the world at that time, the pandemic lockdown. Fear is worse for my immune system than my low blood counts, she said. To exercise caution is good. I do have fragile health, but I'm to take care not to cultivate fear. One way to manage my stress is to take walks outside and not to wear the mask because it's not optimal for breathing, especially with the dry air in Utah. Also, I should go in the mornings or evenings because July is the hottest time of the year. Regarding my growing sense of isolation and loneliness, that might be mitigated by joining online women's forums, especially ones for wives of cops, to create a support system. The news cycles at the time continually fed a climate that was very anti-cop. So connecting with other women in similar circumstances would help me navigate how Jim was dealing with the issue as well. My higher self said Jim always carries a lot of negativity around with him, and it increases because of what he deals with every day at work. Just as white light and positive energy elevates a person or a place where it enters, the converse is true with negative energy and negative people. The kind Jim carries with him every day brings a heavy feeling like mud. I then asked Peter where this thick, heavy negativity from Jim originated. In every reading, we talk about this negative energy, especially since we talked about the cowboy a couple of readings ago, the entity that dwells with Jim or sometimes in him. But I do ask this every reading because it might be something new, some new darkness. Who knows? It was very apparent and sometimes pretty disconcerting. To answer this question, Peter tapped into Jim's higher self, who laid out a map of chronic abuse by his parents from early childhood that taught him a distorted version of tough love in which pain is strength, that love is weakness. It's very sad, he stated, and Jim doesn't know any better. And when Jim feels defensive, has negative emotions such as those he feels about the declining power and reputation of the police, he uses anger as a defense mechanism. When he generates this anger, he further compounds his own misery by attracting more negative energy from the world via the law of attraction. My higher self interjected that when I encounter this kind of bad energy from Jim, I need to repeat to myself a mantra. I'm exactly the opposite of this negative energy. I'm love. I believe that love conquers all, and I know that love is better. This is true. And I'll tell you that 2 years after this reading, little less than 2 years, I use a mantra very similar to this that saves my life. It literally preserves my life. She said that despite my normal human moments, I do try to resonate with a higher level of understanding. Next, while teaching me a new practice for self protection from this dark energy, my higher self cautioned me to pay close attention to how I feel when Jim comes home. I may notice that my mind may feel tired and drained, but I'm not to mention any of this to Jim because he won't understand. What I should do, however, is protect my home and my own energy. So when he's away, prepare the home. She specifically named salt lamps as something I should get right away. For greatest effectiveness, she said to place them in spaces that Jim frequents. This means that Jim's bathroom is first up. Ugh, yikes. So I put a salt lamp in the living room nearest his chair and one on my bedside table, and it did right away help me sleep better. She explained that the salt emits energetically cleansing negative ions, but only when it's warm. So I needed to keep them turned on 24/7, which I did. She concluded her portion of the reading by telling me that this practice will help restore balance to the energy in the home, even going so very far as to say it could be beneficial to Jim. I might even see his playfulness return, feel a lightening up, healing Jim passively. I remember thinking at the time, that is some miracle salt. And also, when Jim wanted to turn my salt lamps off at nighttime, I told him not to because the negative ions help with my inflammation and they're energy efficient. So on they stayed. I'll stop the reading there. We'll finish the rest in the next part, part 15. And thank you for hanging in there with me for this half of the July 2020 psychic reading. In the next episode, we'll finish it up. It's very impactful. And I want to say that, yes, we hear a lot of familiar things in every single reading. And the reason they're repeated is because I wasn't heeding them. I wasn't taking action on them. So Spirit, like an everyday earthly parent, repeats the lesson until it's sunk in. And that's important to know. If you want to know more, please remember to like, follow, and share to take my story one step closer to publication. And ladies, I invite you to step out of the darkness and into your power.